Hello YouTube. Today we're going to be talking about recomps. I just ended a 3-year maintenance phase where I did not lose or gain a single pound, and therefore I have a ton of information to share with you guys. For those of you who are interested in a practice, a recomp is essentially an attempt at losing fat and gaining muscle at the same time. Which on paper of course sounds amazing. Why would anyone bulk or cut when you can get the best of both worlds? The answer is because it doesn't really work like that, and this is what I want to share with you. It's also going to serve as an introduction to the 50K special I'm working on, where I'm going to be sharing with you my 3-year transformation, all the way from when I was 210, the exact same weight, but 3 years ago. And we're going to see how my body evolved, how the muscle definition also came into play. We're going to also look at the body measurements to see if I gained size or if all of this is just an illusion, because at the end of the day, it could also be that a recomp will make you look better, but that won't actually lead to any progress. All things that are very important to discuss for anyone who is actually interested and who wants to jump into a recomp. So today what we're going to do is I'm going to share my top 3 lessons that I learned throughout these 3 years, all the things that surprised me, but that I want you guys to be aware of if you decide yourself to jump on that journey and go on the recomp adventure. You're not going to be surprised, and you're going to also avoid the mistakes that I made. So the very first lesson that I want to share with you guys is the pace. Recomps are exceptionally slow, and this is why they're not popular, by the way. Many people have tried to market recomps and to make them appear better than they are. This is not what I want to do. I want to be honest and open with you guys. A recomp is slow as fuck. There is a reason why people prefer bulks and cuts. It's because at least you see results. At least there is modifications. Your body measurements go up, your strength goes up. Or in the case of a cut, you're going to be able to see the shreds. You're seeing that you're losing fat. There is a visual cue that what you're doing is working. Whereas with a recomp, there's almost none of that. The modification is so slow that sometimes you even come to wonder if anything is happening at all. I've spent sometimes weeks feeling like I was just losing time and just wasting my life away because I was not seeing the repercussions on my physique or my strength that I was expecting. And that is because this is the nature of the recomp. You're supposed to be extremely patient. Anything that you could get via a week of bulk will take maybe a month or two of recomps. It's just the way it goes. Since you're getting quote unquote the best of both worlds, meaning that you're losing fat and gaining muscle, you're also getting very minimal amounts of it, and you cannot expect any more than that. It's only natural. When you bulk, you sacrifice your definition and you gain fat. That maximizes muscle gains. When you cut, you minimize muscle gains and you maximize fat loss. When you recomp, you get a tiny bit of both benefits, but you only get a very small amount of it. And if you're not okay with that, recomps are most likely not going to be for you. Also keep in mind that when we're talking to dietary practices, things that you're going to do along the gym, it's best to stick to what you can actually approach healthily and actually keep at. Because I know for a fact that a recomp is going to be too frustrating for the average lifter and you're going to give it up. So if you end up doing recomp for 2 months and then jumping onto a cut or bulk, you wasted your time. A recomp is something that is supposed to happen for a long time unless you're doing a mini recomp, but most people don't do that. Most people are going to put their all into the recomp, thinking full well they're going to be able to do it, and then they realize the length needed and they just tap out. I'm going to say that if you're going to recomp, you need to at least dedicate a year to it, at least. For me, when I got into it, I thought to myself, okay, I don't care how long it's going to take. We're going to see how much it lasts. It's what I said last time I made a video about recomps, which was 2 years ago. And it got me to today, 3 years in. That's how much it took for me to milk all of the gains I could get from the recomp. But if I had completely given up after a year because I did not see the results that I wanted, I would not be where I am today. That's an important lesson to keep in mind. Since you are going to see that with the recomp, the number one thing that is lacking is this satisfaction that comes with the ability to see that what you are doing is actually working. And bulks and cuts, as I said, have plenty of that. And so it is very hard for a recomp to actually compete with these practices that could be akin to immediate gratification. Although it's not really the case, it's just that they give faster results in the areas that you expect: fat loss, muscle gain, etc., etc. But for anyone who is willing to actually take their time, be patient, and actually embrace the recomp fully, you are going to see that the results down the line are fairly similar. Meaning that if someone bulks up and then cuts down, you will notice that someone who recomped through that period will make similar gains. Maybe slightly less, because it is true that the person who entered a caloric surplus was in that caloric surplus boosted in terms of muscle gains, but, and it is my firm belief, and it's something I'm going to share with you and prove to you during my transformation video, you don't need a massive caloric surplus to gain muscle. In truth, you don't even need a caloric surplus. I know that it's not super popular to say that. Many people are completely opposed to that mindset, but it's something I saw with my own body. I was able to gain muscle mass without having to eat at a surplus at all. I was always around maintenance. So it's something to keep in mind. The big benefit you're going to get if you allow the caloric surplus is going to be that the gains are going to be faster, and therefore you're going to stick to it longer. This is truly the benefit of the bulk. It's much easier to actually stick to a bulk. And it's also much easier in the sense that, again, you are seeing progress. Whereas with the recomp, it might very well be that on paper, it will look like you are not going anywhere. And as we all know, it is easier to stick to things that you see results. It's only logical. And therefore, it can also lead, and it's something that I experimented with, to plateaus. Well, because it's tough to plateau when you bulk. Right? When you bulk, the gains come easy, the strength comes easy, and it's the same with a cut. If you cut, you're putting all of your eggs in the fat loss basket, so it's easier to get what you want from it. But with the recomp, you can get lost, because at the end of the day, the gains and the goal of the recomp is a little bit vague. You want to look better, okay, but what does that mean? What does that look like? Some people are not going to be able to define it, and so I think that for anyone who wants to recomp, you have to have a clear idea of what is going to go on. You can't just enter a recomp because it sounds nice. I think recomps are for people who have a clear plan in mind and a clear dream body and certain areas of the body they want to focus on. If your goal is to get overall bigger, a bulk is for you. Don't even bother with a recomp. You're just going to spin your wheels forever, because you are going to be lacking in the most important thing when it comes to seeing progress, and that is the indicators of growth, aka, again, measurements going up, strength going up, etc. Most people are guided by these things in the gym. This is what pushes them in the right direction. With a recomp, there's none of that. So if you don't know where you're going yourself, you cannot expect your body to tell you, because your body is going to be mostly in a state of limbo, which is, by the way, what we want when we recomp, because we are seeking stability. This is something that I actually like with recomps and something that some lifters could benefit from. The issue with cuts and bulks is that even though they give massive benefits and they give massive modifications in the way your body looks, it's also very easy to get sucked into the cycle. And once the cycle stops giving gains, which is something I've seen a billion times with lifters, and you end up cutting and bulking the same 10, 15 pounds without any actual benefits or actual improvements in muscle mass, it's very hard to get your head out of your ass and to realize that what you're doing is not working, because you're caught in the movement, you're caught in the momentum. Winter I bulk, summer I cut, and then you don't realize that 5 years later, you look the exact same you did 5 years prior. A recomp can give you some stability. It slows you down, and you can recenter and actually look at your goals, look at where you want to go. This is why I did a recomp, is because I was realizing I was stuck in an endless cycle of gaining 30 pounds, cutting 30 pounds, and it was not getting me anywhere. If anything, I was destroying my body. And the recomp allowed me to heal my body. I now felt better than I ever had before. So for anyone who made my mistakes and bulked way too aggressively and was completely plagued with injuries, plagued with body fat that they could not get rid of with cuts because the cuts were too aggressive and the fat didn't want to budge, I recommend a recomp. The recomp will slow you down and allow you to finally focus on the most important thing, which is the training. Now, before we get to that, I also want to discuss the nature of the recomp, something that people don't get in my opinion, because recomps are presented like hybrids of bulks and cuts, like it's something in the middle, but it's not true at all. A recomp is its own different thing. It's a different entity altogether, because here we're not talking about gaining or shredding weight. the goal of the recomp is to change the way you look. And it might sound similar, but it's entirely different because now you're not adding mass. It's the difference between someone who is sculpting a statue but has the ability to add or take away mass from said statue, and the guy who has the duty to not take away a single pound or add a single pound. You understand that the two are going to work completely differently. If you recomp, you are going to be in the second category. So it's going to be a transformation. And because it's a transformation, this means that there's some trading happening. There is something going on within your body that is going to make you look different because you're not allowed to add or to take away pounds. So what's happening exactly is that you are trading fat for muscle. You're not gaining muscle and losing fat. And I know it's a little bit strange because you could tell me it's the same thing. I mean, you are looking better, you are the same body weight, so you are losing fat and gaining muscle. Yes, but all of that is the transformation aspect. It's not something that you do in priority. You're not gaining muscle through the recomp. The gaining muscle part happens because you're trading the fat. And likewise, you're not losing fat through the recomp. You're getting muscle that requires the fat. I hope it's clear. It's important that I phrase it that way because the way I phrase it in the title is the way most people phrase recomps. And I think it lures noobs into attempting them, and it's just not right because the main benefit of the recomp is not going to be this. It's going to make you look better, which means that you're gaining muscle and losing fat, but it's so slow that we simply, and by we I mean fitness influencers in general, simply cannot sell recomps in that fashion. Rather, you have to tell people that they're going to slowly modify their body composition, which down the line will result in them looking better with more lean mass and less adipose tissue. But it's mostly going to be a result of the process and not the goal per se. And all of this trading also means that at some point you're going to be limited by your body fat percentage. A recomp is not something you can just keep doing because once you're out of body fat to give for muscles, the entire thing is going to slow down to a crawl. And this is when recomps stop working. This is when people tell you, oh, I've been recomping and nothing happens. Most of the time it's because it's people who had no business recomping in the first place. My opinion is if you're below 15-14% body fat, you shouldn't be recomping because you're not going to accomplish much. Your body is going to be very reluctant to give away its fat reserves because you have so little. Personally, when I started recomping, I was at least 19-18% body fat. And I allowed myself to recomp until I was right now, I would say around 17, 16, maybe to be generous, 15%. And you could tell me, okay, but that looks like it's something that should have been much faster. Well, you have to keep in mind that it also is based on how heavy you are. I'm 210. My 1% body fat is heavier than someone who is 150 pounds with their 1%. I think you understand that. So for me to shed away 3-4% body fat, 3 years was exactly what I needed. Now I'm at a point where I'm going to stop my recomp most likely, but I could keep going. There is still some fat that I can trade for muscle. The reason why I'm not going to do it is because it slows down. As you understand, the higher body fat you are, the easier it is going to trade the fat because you're essentially quote unquote in a caloric surplus. You have so much useless mass on the body that the body is going to naturally have a very easy time to use it to feed the muscle. Whereas the closer you get to a non-maintainable body fat percentage at maintenance calories, the tougher it is going to be and the more you're going to want to start to enter a bulk again. And this really speaks to the entire alchemy of recomps. The reason why most people are not going to be able to actually accept to enter that type of method, that type of mode, is because you are really trying to bargain with your body. You're trying to make sure that whatever fat you're trying to get rid of can get mobilized and utilized for muscle growth. And that means plateaus. Because when the body is not in a caloric surplus, even if you have body fat reserves, it is not as effective as just eating more. Yes, it's going to allow you to lose fat, but you can't bully the body into losing the fat. So you just have to keep pushing. At some point, the body will adapt, but it's going to be extremely slow. A plateau is just a normal part of the recomp, and to be able to accept that is extremely difficult for most people. One thing that I found really allowed me to take it in is to really focus on weak points and imbalances. Because maintenance or not, if you have a body part you've neglected for a long time, if you give it a ton of volume, it will grow. And that growth is going to soothe you. It's going to make it easier for you to stick to recomp, especially if other body parts are lagging behind. The one thing to keep in mind is this. If you struggle in terms of performance, if you're plateauing in the gym, this might mean that you are at a portion of the recomp where you have met a certain level of balance, and now the muscle is resisting transition and resisting also evolution. It usually never lasts for a very long time, but it's good to have other muscle groups to look at and to actually progress on to be able to actually take it in, because these are the portions that are the most important. This is when the body is transforming. This is when you've entered a stage where you're losing fat and getting muscle, but you're losing fat faster than you gain muscle, and therefore you're not necessarily gaining any strength. You might even be losing it because you're losing all of your good leverages, but the muscle that could come in to replace all of that power that you lost is not going to just magically appear. You will not lose a pound of fat to be replaced by a pound of muscle. It doesn't work like that. It's why most people actually, when they attempt to recomp, they don't realize that they are actually losing weight. It's when you have to keep an eye on it. A recomp is a fickle beast. It's why it's not as easy as a bulk or a cut. You have to also keep an eye on the balance and where you're at. Something that is also logical, but most people don't actually pay attention to. The longer you recomp, the less fat you have, the more muscle you have, the more you have to eat. Your caloric maintenance and the TDEE of your body is going to go up because muscle mass is more glutinous in calories than fat. All of these are things that if you are getting a headache, just listening to me means that you might not be someone that needs a recomp in the first place. It is to be reserved for a certain type of people. And that certain type of people is, of course, the type that know their body, have experimented with cuts and bulks, and have reached a point in their lifting career where they are fine with their mass, and now they want to refine the entire process. They want to shape the statue as much as possible. And when that occurs, I have found that the best way to actually keep track of progress is not measurements, it's not looking at strength, it's not looking at the scale because the scale will not budge, you're at the same weight. Rather, you have to look in the mirror. Looking at my body and seeing the transformation and the fact that the cuts were coming in, I was being more vascular, my muscles were popping out more, all of that is what kept me going, because going to be straight up with you, if I just based it on measurements, I would have given up a long time ago. I'm not going to spoil it for you guys. I did grow, my muscles did grow, but it's minimal. It's almost nothing as compared to what a bulk would have given me. To be honest with you, it's almost wasted time, but it's not at the same time, because when I look at what my body was like 3 years ago and what it's like now, it's night and day, and I do not regret putting in the work because now I can start anew. I did a ton of bullshit to my body and it looked horrendous, and I managed to get back to a place where I look good, I feel good. So now I can start again properly. But this also means that anyone who is intelligent about their body composition to start with will most likely never have to do a recomp, or at least not as long as the one that I did. And the third point, and the thing that I personally believe got me through the recomp in terms of action and forward momentum, was the training. That should go without saying because the diet is not really part of the equation, but if you keep the training at the center of everything and you make sure you keep progressing and putting in the work, your recomp is going to go properly. Whereas for bulks and cuts, it's sort of the opposite. You have to be able to see that you're in a caloric surplus or deficit, or else it's all for nothing. You're not going to magically gain weight. Since you're not trying to gain or lose weight here, you can focus all of your efforts on what you are doing in the gym. And as long as I said that you are progressing in terms of volume, tonnage, weight on the bar, all metrics of progressive overload, then this means that you are gaining muscle. There's no way around it. It's also the beauty of the recomp. With a bulk, you can bullshit your way through it. You can add pounds on your squat or bench. You never really know if you gain muscle. I mean, hopefully, if you're doing things properly, you are gaining muscle, but a large part of that is also due to the fact that you got bigger, you got heavier. Whereas with a recomp, your body weight is not going up. So if you're getting stronger at a lift, what is happening? Well, one can only surmise that it's because you gain muscle, okay? But then if you gain muscle and your body weight stayed the same, what happened? Well, The secondary step is that logically, again, this must mean that you lost fat. This is the one metric you can look at in a recomp that is going to give you satisfaction. But as I said, it's so slow and so rare that you're not going to be able to rely on it, so don't make that mistake. And the good thing with that metric, that satisfaction metric in particular, is that when it stops, well, you just know that it's time to stop the recomp. Whereas with a bulk, if you're not getting weight, you can just eat more. If you're cutting, if you're not losing fat, you can just eat less. Here, it's not that simple. If you cannot gain more strength or push your training forward and you're constantly plateauing for a very long time, there's no three around it. It's your body telling you that whatever trade was occurring cannot occur anymore. And most of the time it's because you have reached a body fat where you cannot push any further. And this means that it's time to stop. It's time to move to a slow bulk, for example. This is great because it means that you're not going to lose time. If you are in touch with your body, the recomp is not going to be something that you can be stuck in. It's not like the endless cutting and bulking cycle. A recomp has an expiration date, and I've experienced that myself. My body is starting to ask for more calories. It's starting to ask for building blocks. It's not able to use the ones that I had laying around in my body in the form of body fat. And this is great because it means that any recomp pockets or windows or blocks that you're going to have in your lifting career are going to be clearly defined. But this also means that there are certain people that have no business recomping. I'm thinking, for example, of dudes, skinny young men with no body fat. You're going to recomp, but what are you going to recomp with? What are you going from and towards what? Recomping means that you're relatively fat already, so you're recomping towards someone more muscular. But if you're skinny, you have no bargaining chips to actually do a recomp. You are much more likely to gain muscle if you enter a bulk. So this is a mistake that I don't want anyone watching this channel making. And it is the same for people with no experience. As I said, the recomp is not going to be as easy as just gaining or losing weight. This is a more in-touch practice. You need to be able to control variable metrics at once and to have a clear plan in mind, because the diet plan or the loss or gain of mass is not going to be able to push you in the right direction. And this is going to lead to my last message for people who are interested. Remember that you maintain to recomp, you don't recomp to maintain. It sounds obvious or even bogus because it might sound like it's the same thing to you guys, but what I mean by this is the idea of eating at maintenance is to allow the transformation to occur on a long period of time. Whereas there are certain people who are going to enter the recomp because they want to eat at maintenance. But what does it mean? It means they just want to maintain. We're not talking about that. If you just maintain your mass at the end of your recomp, you wasted your time. The recomp was still supposed to net you muscle mass and to make you lose fat. So don't transform something that is a slow progress to no progress just because the car is not going to go faster than another car that is driven by someone who is bulking or cutting does not mean it's not going anywhere. It just means that you're going to have to be smarter when it comes to driving it. You're going to have to know your directions better, and you're going to have to be careful with the amount of fuel that you use. And this is going to be that for this video. All of the results of my recomp you're going to be able to access and witness during my 50K special that should be releasing tomorrow or on Monday at the latest. And we're going to be able to see if recomps are actually possible. If it's possible even for someone who is an advanced lifter to look tremendously better after years of staying at the same body weight. But most importantly, we're going to be able to verify once and for all if it is possible to add muscle mass without a caloric surplus. So stay tuned for that upload, and I will be seeing you very soon.